happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Are you a professional optimised business? Time to look at Northern Peugeot Bandura to further professionalise your fleet with their updated commercial van range. The team at Northern Peugeot Bandura can help customise your fleet to your business needs. Stock arriving now, so secure your van and beat the rush before the end of financial year madness. Visit northernpeugeot.com.au or call 9119 9008. T&Cs apply.
She lays it off Teresa Polias. It's an absolute peach. Ayres driving. What a hit from Melina Ayres. Wow. And Sam Kerr has a hat-trick.
Hello and welcome back to another week, an edition of Radio Dub here on FNR. It's been a very eventful week in the Liberty A-League. We've seen Melbourne victory out of the finals, then back in the finals. They were never really out.
I don't think they were ever out.
But they were. The destiny wasn't in their hands.
They were on the precipice.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. You guys with your fancy English literature. But what's it called? The game with Wellington, the game against Wellington, how chaotic was the end for you? Like, were you stressed out a bit, Oscar?
No, it was perfectly calm the whole way. It was
tranquil,
objectively crazy, objectively intense. I think not quite as much as the City Canberra game, which for sure we'll talk about at some point. But it's kind of you would have thought that in Jeff Hopkins' mind heading into that game, the first half went exactly as he would have liked
absolutely.
it. Everyone came out pumped up, lots of energy. There was that incredible free kick from Alana Murphy, and then the ridiculous goal from Melina Ayres. I mean,
but she almost scored another one off the crossbar a little bit earlier.
They started bright, got a 2-goal buffer, got into half-time, smooth sailing. That would have been the blueprint that Jeff Hopkins had, and it looked like it was going to pay off, and then it just fell apart at the end.
Yeah, at the end, and I don't know if... I think it was a series of errors that led to Wellington, because the back pass to Casey wasn't particularly great, and then Casey didn't deal with it the way she would have liked to have dealt with it. And then the second goal, I watched that, and I understand that Casey slips, and it looks really obvious that that she's like the main person at fault for it. But I think if you take it back, maybe if Ava Breedis wins the first header, it doesn't get back to that situation, and then we've got, because it's just a chaotic situation, it becomes players moving out of positions. They maybe wouldn't necessarily do that if it wasn't such a high stress game, but nonetheless, it teed up a very entertaining game between Melbourne City and Canberra. Now, Melbourne City, because of that victory result, were all safe. They were perfectly fine. They were just playing for either third or fourth. And if Canberra had won, they'd be in and they would have gone to third. And it didn't pan out that way. Lachie, how did you see that game?
Well, how did I see it in literal terms? I saw it on my phone at the end of a table at the pub.
Oh, nice.
I was reigniting the dub at the pub tradition, which other people other podcasts have made their thing. I decided I'd dip my toes in the water for an evening, and I'm glad I did, because what what a mental game. It kind of seemed as though the City had run away with it a little bit. You know, there were just a lot of different moments where you thought, you know, City get the first goal, you know, Canberra out of this, they equalise, City score again, City go up 3-1. And you thought that, well, that's the season just sort of done and dusted right there. We can put a line through it, you know, it's all said and done, you know. But then Vesna Milivojevic just was like, I have other ideas.
Train.
I have other plans for how this game is going to work. And the quality of the goals.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It was fantastic.
Oh boy. She does not score a bad goal.
No, she doesn't.
And the only lamentation of watching her this season, how good she's been, and again in this game, and I know I'm talking about a team who have missed out on finals here, but the only lamentation is knowing that she could have been a future Matilda if circumstances
And she
were
did play for us in the junior.
Yeah, at the junior age level. She's now, I'm pretty sure, a fully capped Serbian international.
Yes.
She's lost to us, and I think that in years to come, the game will be worse for it because, my God, she was good in this game. And she got to that point where she's like, you know, jump aboard onto my shoulders, Canberra. I'm taking you with me to finals. Sadly, it didn't happen, but boy, it was close. When that breakaway happened down the right-hand side, very, very late onto the game, because there was like 8 minutes of stoppage time.
3-2?
Yeah, no. At 3-3, Canberra were chasing the game, and there was I can't remember who was delivering the cross on the right-hand side, but you could see Emma Ilioski, who had come off the bench, just unmarked at the far post. And even before the cross comes in, unfortunately, it wasn't the best. I think it might have been Nikki Flannery, actually. But you just like, even me, with no horse in the race, I'm not bothered who makes the finals. I'm just happy for teams to have a crack at the knockouts. But I'm resisting the urge to yell at the phone like, Ilioski, get it to Ilioski. And sadly for Canberra, it didn't happen. But I mean, I feel like that was the only way that was the only way things could have gone for Canberra. Like that was whether or not they qualified or they didn't, it could only ever end in just ridiculous chaos. Not just because that's a summation of the dub, but also that's a sort of a summation of the season that Canberra have had, being absolutely nowhere at various points and then being world beaters.
Yeah, no, it was a thrilling game to be at and to see the teams, because I thought that Melbourne City were good. I know the Canberra had lots of opportunities throughout the game, but for a large portion of the way I saw it at the ground, I thought the Melbourne City were in a lot of control defensively and going forward. I thought that once the substitution of Naomi Chinema came off, I think their defence maybe lost a little bit of the structure, and it allowed Canberra to get more and more opportunity, and the pressure just kept on building on Melbourne City's defence. They kept dropping a little bit further and slightly were a little bit off in their cues about when to move and things like that. But either way, it was a fantastic game, and I'm looking forward very much so to next year when the finals teams are expanded and we see how that goes about, because Perth only missed out by a point and goal difference. Canberra missed out on goal difference, which is only by 2 goals. So you think about those 2 5-0 losses, really detrimental to their season. And but after that, after the 6th, there's a pretty big drop off from Perth to Western Sydney.
There was also a 4-0 loss to Melbourne City as well, I'm pretty sure, which is different circumstances, obviously, different form, different cattle, all of those kind of things, and no 2 games are the same. But Canberra were good enough to match it with that team.
Yeah.
We saw that on Sunday. We didn't see it the last time those 2 played. And those are the kind of moments where you think, things could have been different for them.
Yeah, it is a season, though, where, the top 6 would have felt more appropriate, which is, of course, just an incident of how things played out. There was no way really of foreseeing that. I think that just reflecting on the finals race as a whole, I don't think anyone was expecting, the quality or the interest to be diluted by the expansion. Of course not. And we definitely didn't see that. I think we saw a better season because we had more time for teams to develop and kind of have the ebbs and flows that come with most seasons that we're used to seeing in football. And It allowed all the teams to, we really saw the changes and the growth of the teams across the competition in a way that in seasons gone by, you feel like you're just getting your teeth into it by the time the finals have arrived. And the competition and the whole situation was all the better for it. And we got the best, I'd say, finals race or closing of that finals race that we've seen in possibly ever, but a long time.
Last year was pretty good.
Last year was pretty good too. I thought this year was better.
Yeah, no, 100% I think this year was better. But no, it was a lot of fun. And obviously Sydney FC, Western United won their game and put all the pressure on Sydney FC, and Sydney FC comfortably taking care of business and got themselves the three-peat in premierships. And when we spoke to Charlotte McLean, she said how important that it was to the team, and it was really one of their goals because they realised that it's never been done before. So congratulations to them, and I think they obviously head into finals as the clear favourite. Obviously, there are teams there that you wouldn't want to second guess and things like that have got experience in the finals, but they probably have the most solid run into the finals as well. So
I think it's exciting because I think you can make a compelling argument for all four of the teams, or any four of the teams going all the way. I think that's been the nature of this season. When I talk about the ebbs and flows that all the different teams have shown, of course Sydney have finished top and the third time in a row, and in lots of situations that would mean that they'd be warm favourites, but I mean we've seen the last two seasons that isn't necessarily guaranteed, and we've seen all four of those teams show the quality to go all the way. I think Melbourne Victory obviously have that reputation and that experience in these situations when they're not particularly fancied. We know how good Sydney are. Western United, that start to the season was obviously incredible, and they've seemed to have recaptured a bit of better form. I think
that win against the Wanderers is actually a really big boost, and a lot of people definitely thought they were out, they're done, they're not doing anything else for the rest of the season. So I think that win gives them a really good morale boost heading into finals that I think they needed.
Yeah, well, not least for Hannah Keane, of course, because you talk about Western having their troubles in front of goal, their troubles with games generally. Well, Hannah Keane was I mean, I'm resistant to lean on the cliche of a player being talismanic, and when they're up, the team is up. But I think, and Hannah Keane said as much during Dub Zone on the weekend, this is a new experience for her in the sense that in other teams that she's played with in Europe, the burden of goal scoring is often shared across a number of people. She's not always, or hasn't always been in her career, the focal point, the main focus of where the ball travels to in an attacking sense. In this team, she is. Yeah. And that's a big weight to manage. And I think as someone like a Jess McDonald has departed, Chloe Lagazzo has obviously left and subsequently returned, that the intensity, the concentration of how much of that weight she's had to carry has only gotten stronger, more intense, and maybe finally this weekend gone was a sign that she, after a couple of dry weeks, is able to shoulder that load, I guess.
I think I mentioned this a while ago on the pod, but I was thinking that my biggest concern with Western United was their inability to get Hannah Keane the ball from wide areas. They were playing really, really narrow, and they weren't using their width. And because when Jess McDonald was there, Hannah Keane and Jess McDonald were rotating in and out and switching, and the ball was constantly moving. There was constantly an option for Hannah Keane to get the ball, and I was concerned about the players they had, in those wing positions. Were they able to get Hannah Keane the ball? And I'm not saying it's turned around fully right now, but I think that Western Sydney game, they found a level of fluidity that I hadn't seen in a little while about getting her the ball at the right time with the right movement, and I think it sets them up really well for heading into finals.
But it's probably the only real positive sign, and I know I say that you can make a case for any of the teams to win, but it's the only real positive sign that any of the three chasing pack have shown for the last few weeks. I mean, that was Western United's only win in, I think, the last four, not counting the overturned result against Brisbane. Victory, I think, have drawn their last three games, and City have lost two and drawn two of their last four. So it indicates that only one team's heading into this end of the season in good form, which, as you say, Pokuah, is clearly Sydney FC. Yeah. The question, though, remains, we've seen them be the best team throughout the season and not be able to carry that through to the finals over recent years. Obviously, the desire to change that will grow every time that it happens, but equally the pressure that comes with that will also increase. So.
Yeah, I would never think that to count Jeff Hopkins and Melbourne Victory out. I know obviously that they made it difficult on themselves, but I think we saw in that first, obviously Wellington are in the bottom of the table, but they've actually been a very competitive side this season defensively. They haven't let in a ridiculous amount of goals. They've been solid for large portions of games and just slipped in moments. But that Melbourne Victory side, that first half, that was them at their best, and they were really good and they were really attentive and they were on the ball and they knew exactly what they were doing. And that's the things that I equate to a Jeff Hopkins side of knowing their roles and understanding their system and understanding where they are in the game. Obviously, the second half was a different story, but I think that Jeff Hopkins and his side and a lot of experienced players can get themselves really into a comfortable position to get in a rhythm in finals and get them to at least a grand final and see where they go.
Just before you go, like I was going to, if you wanted to paint a positive picture.
There's no going. We
Well, you looked ready. You looked eager.
No,
I just thought I'd jump in front, jumping the queue.
It's not a turn-based system. You speak when you feel free to speak.
Democracy doesn't work. If you wanted to paint a positive picture of Melbourne Victory's end to the season, it is now, I think, 7 unbeaten, which is good, but they've only won 2 of those 7, which kind of undermines what we're talking about. The last loss was back in January when that 6-3 against Sydney FC. So that kind of speaks to what you're saying, Pokuah. They've found a solidness. It's just whether they can build on that and add the kind of attacking
because
flair.
last year they had the special. They were really great foundation, and they had Alex Chidiac, who was really, really special and took them. I'm curious to see who will be that special player that pushes them like even further in the finals.
Well, if I could throw a slightly contrarian opinion out into the
please, Lachie, you're not a contrarian at all, ever.
Let me know if I'm going crazy here. Does form matter less going into finals? Does it not matter at all? Because I mean, it doesn't not matter at all, but I think it matters maybe significantly less than the amount of weight we're giving it right now, because there are so many games that just can be. I mean, it's only 90 minutes. You don't, or potentially extra time penalties.
Football 90 minutes?
No, but you don't have over the course of a regular season. You don't have a get-right game.
Yeah.
You don't have well, if you've got a double chance, I guess you have a shot at redemption. Yeah. But the margins are so fine that one player can just decide, as you were sort of alluding to at the end there, Pokuah, this is the day for me to make this game my own, and I don't care how good my opposition is. I don't care how poor the rest of my team are playing, but I'm going to hit a goal from 35 yards and there's nothing you can do about it. And I look at Melina Reyes.
Oh, yeah.
On the weekend, and I think Melbourne Victory, sure, that you'd love to have more of those players, not less. So no chids hurts, of course, we all know that. But if Melina Reyes can do that in even one game, and Victory can set up shop, they do have the quality of defence to see out a game if needed. Obviously, they didn't do that against Wellington, but they can do it. They've got the quality to do it. That makes a massive, massive impact. And I mean, Melina has scored, 9 goals in 12 appearances.
So good. She's so good.
I mean, I listened to someone talk about her earlier this week, Michael Edgley on Box to Box, who the caveat has to be made.
Did you just reference another podcast on this
podcast? I did. I'm well read, well listened, I guess.
God, man.
I have to make
to dilute our own product.
I have to make the caveat that the person who I'm quoting here is her agent, but you cannot deny that if she wasn't beset by the hamstring injuries that she has been this season, we would be talking about probably the competition's dominant force from a striking perspective, and probably maybe a Matilda's prospect.
No, I am fully in on, I'm bought all the Melina Reyes stock you can possibly have available to you. She's such a talented player. I love the physicalness of her game, like the physicality, of her game, and her ability to maneuver play. But it's also very skillful. Like, it's not just like a bash around kind of game.
It's a nice balance of power and guile, I guess. I mean, like, realistically, looking at the goals that she scored in that game, or the goal that she scored in that game, who else does that?
Yeah.
Seriously, who else does that?
It's a phenomenal goal, and I think the injuries have set her back, because I think it started last year. We were all on definitely Melina Reyes for the push for the Matildas, and then kind of Holly McNamara took that spot of that young player coming into, that's taken the lineup. But Melina Reyes is like one of the best strikers, like just pure ability as a striker, and she's up there with the best in the game.
She's a jet, yeah. She's a jet.
I mean, fundamentally, I accept the point that Lachie made about, any of these teams can beat any of the other teams in any of these finals games. I think that is ultimately true. I suppose just to respond to the form debate or contention, I think that if we reframe that not as about form, but if we look at the course of the season and the way that some of these teams, because of player movement, have really changed in their core makeup from the first half of the season to the second half of the season. What that means in my mind is that how they've played over the last couple of months isn't necessarily reflective of their form, but their actual level. I think that we have learnt about the level of these teams as they stand at the moment, which is different to what it was in the first half of the season, because key personnel have, in most cases, left some of these teams. So I think that even if we look at the last 2 months, not as from a form perspective, but from how good is this team, how good is Melbourne Victory, how good is Melbourne City, based on what they're going to have in the finals, then I think that then that discussion becomes a bit more relevant.
No, I think that's completely fair, and I think that's a good endpoint to our opening discussion. But now for the main course and the main event here on Radio Dub. Obviously, everybody's been waiting, all the listeners, of course, been waiting for the Radio Dub end of season awards.
What are we calling these? The Logies are called the Logies. The Brownlow.
The Buskers? The Dubskers?
The Dubbies.
The Dubbies. So, for the Dubbies.
Or what about just the Dubs? The Dubbies sounds like a...
The Dubbies is funny.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Dubs is a bit generic.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like something a Rugrat would wear, but I guess the Dubs is probably...
Maybe just spit the Dubby over it. We'll work through it.
Nice.
Yeah.
The Dubbies. So, Dubbies, we're only going
I don't like it. I regret suggesting it. But go on.
Every time someone announces their selection, that is called spitting the Dubby. I don't know.
I've made my bed and now I simply must lie in
So,
it.
for the 4 categories for the Dubbies that we're going for this year, MVP, obviously, classic.
Yeah.
Surprise player.
Mm-hmm.
Best cameo appearance this season, off the bench, cannot have started the game. And the Dress Well, Coach Well, Play Well award is also going to be handed out.
So these should probably be scaled in order of importance. So I imagine for you, Pokuah, MVP will be the penultimate thing that we debate, and then Dress Well, Coach Well, Play Well will be the last award handed out. But where are we starting?
I think we should start with the best cameo appearance this season. And who's appeared on more episodes this season? You or...
I actually don't know.
I think it might be Lachie, though.
I think I'm the Ooh.
I think it might be you.
I think I've appeared on more. Personally.
Okay.
I feel like Oscar's appeared on more as well. I feel like I'm the cameo.
Okay.
Am I the best cameo appearance?
No, you're not.
Am I
Melina.
Definitely not. Have you heard my opening 30 minutes of the show?
No, that's... Lachie, please, who is your best cameo appearance this
I
season?
am going for...
Apologies if your player isn't mentioned. We can't remember everything.
I'm going for a bit of a cop out here.
Okay.
Early doors, which is a great sign for the rest of the award ceremony. I'm going to interpret best cameo in a different way. You mean it as, who performed the best off the bench. I get that, but I'm going to be willfully ignorant. And I'm going to think, which cameo did I enjoy the most? Which was the most enjoyable, the most wholesome? And for me, it was a player who started out as a cameo maker, has progressed in the last few games to a player who has started when called upon as well. It's Indiana Dos Santos.
Fair. I'm not mad at that shout.
It's a nice piece of A-League's history.
Yeah.
Scoring a goal, one of the youngest ever in the competition, a Premier's
Was she the 4th youngest?
I think she was the 4th youngest. So, it's an interesting mix, the top 10. Obviously, Sam Kerr is in there, but there are a few other players who didn't quite make the jump. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Indiana Dos Santos, as much as I hope she is destined for, the very top. But you can't deny that moment when she came off the bench, I believe against Western United, was one of the best of the season. And then it subsequently has gotten a lot better for her since then. Goal, Premier's Plate, school 2 days after taking out the Premier's Plate, and it could still get better.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair shout. What about you, Oscar?
I'm also going to apply my creative license to interpret your prompt.
Oh, God, you guys are
I don't know if you mean the best cameo player like across the season or the best individual cameo appearance is really where I'm...
Those two are fine interpretations.
Okay,
you
cool.
can go with either one of
Well,
those.
best individual cameo
Lachie
appearance. Lachie's made his own category. I know what's going on. If I were to think of the best off-the-bench appearance, my mind goes back to nearer the start of the season between Melbourne City and Western United when that game came where they were both
I know who you're going to say.
red-hot
Fair,
starts.
that's a good shout.
And at half-time, certain Matildan by the name of Chloe Lagazzo,
That's a very good suggestion.
who perhaps didn't have the best season all round, although time can yet tell, came on and scored twice and won the game for Western United and really laid down the marker. That was their coming of age, where the real deal kind of thing.
Yeah, no.
See, if I had have interpreted the question appropriately, that's probably who I would have said.
That's a very good shout. I
snooze
will
you
go with I have two, but like I'm willing and we'll also just pick one out of the three we've got, by the way.
Okay.
Alana Janczeski against Western United comes on, scores the penalty. I mean, not the penalty, the free kick, sorry, and one of the best goals of the season. It was 1-1 at the time, essentially set it up. Obviously, game ended at 3-1, but it was 1-1 at the time. Really great clutch performance. Second one, not because it was like pivotal to the game, but it was just such a great goal and such a great moment. Fourth round Pale Victoria as well. Caitlin Carrick with the chip over, I think it was against Newcastle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why am I just picking goals that I called? It's a bit strange.
It's the league you barrack for, and your
ego is
conflict of interest is
wild.
considerable.
Yeah, it is considerable. But yeah, I think I've got the weakest suggestions out of there.
Well, category without notice. Dubbies without notice. Best goal of the season, because Janczeski is up there.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's hard to go past. I would have said it's hard to go past Catherine Zimmerman.
That's what I was going to say.
Against Adelaide
That's
United,
what I was
but
thinking.
I'm also thinking about it, and I really do
Did you
like.
add an awards to Dubbies?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did. I did say it was without notice. You were welcome to object.
That's fair.
I do have a penchant for shots that just clatter off the bar. And on that front, Melina Escol against Wellington really did deliver.
It's pretty
But no, Zimmerman's was the best.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was Catherine Zimmerman.
Because unfortunately for some goals, some of them were just the product of goalkeeper error. So I looked down on them a little bit more. Like Grace Marr scored a great goal, but I would say that there was a little bit of goalkeeper error in an element of that goal. So
I mean, Vesna Milivojevic probably has like 3 potential entrants into this category.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the goal against Western United was a bloody rocket.
Yeah.
exactly. But out of the
problem
three,
to have.
can I be honest? I think the dubby goes to Chloe Lagazzo for the best cameo appearance. I think that's.
I'll pay that.
I think.
I concur.
Second.
1-0 me.
Second award for the dubbies that we are going to have a look at. Oscar, you pick. Which award would you like to go to?
Was that just because you forgot the 3? Luckily, I wrote them down. Surprise player of the season.
Oh yes. Go. Do you want to go, or do you want someone else to go first? It's up to you.
I feel like I've got an entrant and I'm going, am I going to think of somebody new who... But no, I reckon I'll go with it.
Okay.
The player who has surprised me with how much of an impact they've had is perhaps coming a bit from left field. Shay Connors. Now, I know that's I'm getting disapproving looks from both ends of the table.
I was just, you took it somewhere. I just wasn't.
I know. My expectations were not high, but Shay Connors has proven to be, behind Katrina Gorry, just about the most influential player at Brisbane Roar this season. I think that there's been a finishing ability, which she hasn't really shown in the past, which she brought to the table. And I'm not saying that I think that she's, in the team of the season or the best, well, necessarily even, top 5 forwards in the competition. But I think that based on what I was expecting, Shay Connors really over-delivered this season.
Okay. Lachie, do you want me to go?
I think that's a fair suggestion in the sense that...
I think her back half the season was better.
Yeah, she did still miss a lot of chances. Like looking even when she was having that purple patch where I think she'd scored like 4 in 4 or something like that in the sort of back third of the season, she was scoring 1 goal from having 7, 8, 9 shots per game. But I concur. She has had I think added a greater culture, variance to her finishes.
But I guess last season we saw lots of misses and not a lot of goals, and this season we actually saw some goals.
We've still
seen a lot of misses though.
But we've seen what I've liked about it though is we've seen different types of goals.
Yes, that's the variance. Yes,
that's what I'm liking. Lachie,
I've got a couple of honourable mentions.
Okay, fair. Look at this guy always trying to expand a segment.
Yeah,
I don't think she's necessarily a surprise because she comes from reasonable pedigree.
Is it Forza and Belvedere?
No. She comes from a decent stock, a decent level. Hensley Handcuff.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Pretty good. I mean, I think her XG differential in terms of how many saves, how many goals she stopped against how many she was expected to concede. I think she was somewhere around the +5 mark, second highest in the league, which is, obviously that's not really reflected in the season that Brisbane had, but I think it could have been a lot worse without her influence on it. Another one, Hannah Lowry.
Yeah.
I thought was particularly in the back half of the season, really, really solid in midfield. She got herself forward, got herself into a number of goal-scoring positions, and she's
got a great goal against City.
Yeah, I mean, she's sort of gone from being a player who we know about, has been involved at, national team, junior national team level. She's brought up 50 appearances for Perth at age 19, and she's catapulted into someone who's now being, talked about as someone who should potentially be making a move overseas. But I think my winner from the Western Sydney Wanderers,
he's done a 3-2-1. It better be good this one.
Is Beth Gordon.
Yeah, fair.
Is Beth Gordon. I'm speaking about someone who's come from the show, but
Did we spur her on?
Maybe.
It wasn't announced yet that she was...
at the time, yeah, she'd had a solid season in the New South Wales MPL with Macarthur Rams winning the championship. But, this was a player who was at Newcastle, was in and out of the side, was struggling for game time. Her talents were known. She was a player who's represented junior national teams previously, so it's not, a level that she's incapable of reaching. But I think as Western Sydney Wanderers built themselves into the league, became a bit more of a, tough opposition to actually play as opposed to the opening few rounds of the season, I think she really grew with them and became a very switched on, dynamic, creative midfield presence. And right towards the end of the season, she obviously added that goal-scoring element too, with some sort of decent positioning in and around the penalty box. So I think she had a really solid season in a team who, for a decent part of it, was looking like it wasn't going to amount to much.
Yeah, no, I think she was their best player this year at Western Sydney Wanderers of the whole season.
Claire Hunt might have a few words with that, but
but for sure, I think it's definitely an argument. I think I understand why people would go with Claire Hunt, but Beth Gordon has been consistent and available all throughout the season. So I think availability is something that deserves
the best ability.
It is most certainly the best ability. My one,
R.I.P.
I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with Sarah Hunter as most surprising, because I think she's taken a step in her game, and I think she's one of the best sixers in the competition, and has been so influential in her movement throughout the games and just her awareness of where her teammates are. And obviously it's made easier by having a strike force that is lethal, and it's a hazard for every other defence. But I think Sarah Hunter is a underrated and underappreciated member of that Sydney FC side. And then my only other one, which Lachie said it doesn't really make sense, but Holly Mack. I was just surprised at how quickly and how well she re-established herself back in the competition.
I only disagree on the grounds that I don't think it's a surprise.
That's what I would say about...
She is her. Holly Mack is just special.
I mean, we mentioned the City Canberra game without even mentioning how incredible Holly Mack was. She was unbelievable. I mean, I would actually say a similar thing about the Hannah Lowry suggestion, though. I wasn't surprised that Hannah Lowry had a really good season because she's an incredible player. But anyway, I just thought I'd spread out the descent.
Who's the Dubby going to?
Sarah Hunter, Beth Gordon. Okay.
Why does Oscar get to pick?
No, I'm asking all of us. I'm asking collectively.
wife. I don't know.
I'd go with Beth Gordon. I'm not mad at that.
I'm happy to go with Beth Gordon.
Yeah. So Beth Gordon, you are our dubby for best most surprise player of the competition. I like that we're going into different clubs. Now we're up to the penultimate, the MVP of the season. You started. I shall start,
please.
My MVP, if I can think about it really quickly on the spot, I think I have to go with Hannah Keane, because I think without her, Western United, even with Jess McDonald, do not get as far as they get in this competition. I think she draws so much attention from the centre backs. It allows space and freedom for their wingers. It allows movement from their midfielders that they typically wouldn't get. But I think she is the MVP of the most surprising team and of the league this year. That's what I'm going to go with, Hannah Keane. And I'm very happy with that choice. Oscar, would you like to go?
It's such a hard one because of how many players played like half the season, because there are lots of, and that's really the key thing that's working in favour of Hannah Keane is that we actually got a full season from her. Because otherwise, you'd obviously be talking about Cote Rojas, you'd be talking about Alex Chidiac. I find it really hard to move away from Hannah Keane as an option. I will be honest. Yeah, sure. I'll throw in Rihanna Pollicina. And I say that because I thought there were times this season when Rihanna Pollicina was...
You want to say her name correctly, please? Respect her. She's a former guest on the show.
Rihanna Pollicina.
Thank you.
Which is, I believe, how she pronounces it. There were times this season where I felt like she was just about putting Melbourne City on her back and carrying them when there were other key absences, and kind of everything that Melbourne City did, at least in an attacking sense, went through Rihanna Pollicina, and they're the team that finished third, so I will throw her in the mix.
Yeah, I think good suggestions. Good suggestions
like
so far.
I'm about to dominate.
I am going to be the dissenting voice. I'm going to stop a Hannah Keane clean sweep. Try saying that 3 times fast. I think there are a few honourable mentions. If we're talking about the actual...
An honourable mention, like seriously.
If we're actually talking about the Dolan Warrens as opposed to the Dubbies, I do wonder if we're going through a sort of 3-2-1 round by round voting system, I reckon Alex Chidiac will just like ride off into the sunset for a bit, and then people will start catching her up. Whether or not she can hold to the end of the season, I'm curious to know.
Okay, can I ask you a question before you continue? Is it feel a bit wrong if Alex Chidiac is to win the award and she only played half the year?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if she got enough votes to win it, then no. It's
but
a
Vicky
voting.
didn't get off to a great start. So
Yeah, it's a good point, but she did. Beatty Goad, the other one to throw into the mix. I feel like no one expects Beatty Goad. That's why I'm going to.
No, she's very good.
Throw her. But no, the number one.
You can also listen to our podcast episode with her on Spotify and everything else. Thank you.
Yeah. My MVP, and I'm thinking about what does MVP stand for as an acronym.
Here we go.
Most valuable.
Sorry.
Yeah, nice. I see where you're going with it. I like it. Most valuable player. Who is the most valuable to their team? And I'm going by
what he's going to say.
I'm going by one sort of stat here, and it's a player I've already praised a lot in this show.
Mate, wrap it up, buddy. Get to your point.
Vesna Milivojevic is my player of the season, my most valuable player, involved in a third of the entirety of all the goals Canberra scored this season. She had a hand in a third of them. I think it was 8 goals, 4 assists she ended the season in. Like, that's for an individual player, that's a pretty crazy tally. I know Michelle Heyman would have been at comparable levels with 13 goals outright and probably a handful of assists there too. But, Milivojevic was just absolutely lightning. She was a player who just constantly throughout the course of the season made you stand up and take notice. Maybe I'm getting suckered in by the quality of the highlight reel, but a third of all goals scored for a single team, even if it isn't a team that made the finals, pretty big deal.
No,
big deal.
I don't disagree with her being up there. I think she's been very, very influential for Canberra.
But well done, Hannah Keane, for winning the W.
I was outvoted.
Hannah Keane, the Dubbies is yours for the MVP.
So just to clarify, you're saying that you would actually vote for Vesna Milivojevic ahead of Hannah Keane as opposed to just for being a contrarian?
Thank you for asking the input.
Okay.
I mean, I've collectively, 2 people have said the same name. I've said one name.
But you said like 3 names.
2 bigger than...
sure.
No, I've picked one
But
name.
you've said like 8 names across the course of these 3 awards.
I picked one name as my MVP.
Yeah.
You guys picked one between the 2 of you. 2 is bigger than 1.
Okay, that's right. That's
I
right.
picked someone else.
But Hannah Keane, congratulations on your dubby. It will not be coming to you in the mail because we do not have the budget to send you an actual physical award.
Yeah.
But congratulations.
Steel blue boots. I don't know.
But now we get to the all-important, most important award here at Radio Dub, something we've talked about a lot. It's the Dress Well, Coach Well, Play Well award. Deep breaths. Lachie, who was your nomination?
Well, do we need to say it individually?
No,
Can we
yeah,
not? I feel like we should just say this on 3.
No, please. Go. This is a serious dubby show.
Oscar, do you want to say it on 3?
No.
I'm too scared of... I know who you're going to say, but I'm too scared of
go.
the calamity
It's
of it.
not a contest.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
This man has his own dedicated fit update on his club social media.
Yeah,
How can
true.
anyone come close? It's Alex Apakis.
Okay.
The man gets a weekly fit check from his social media admin. How can anyone else compete?
Well, my only alternative, and this is really a question to
Thank you,
the
Lachie.
to the creator
Contrarian.
of the
and Mr.
of the
Honourable
award.
Mention over here.
This isn't an honourable mention. This is a question about the criteria of what's necessary. See, because I totally understand what you're saying about the likes of Alex Apakis and Adrian Stenter, who are kind of the
shoe game on point for Adrian Stenter. If you
the
guys don't miss it.
spearheads. I guess. Are you open to a more traditional sense of dress well? Because a more like the more conventional, the person who's committed to looking formal and appropriate at all
Isn't it
times,
Jeff?
regardless of the situation, is Jeff Hopkins.
Oh, no,
true.
I feel like you guys aren't understanding this. Dress well, Coach, was not about dressing and having like the coolest aesthetic. It's about having your style, being very comfortable and dressing appropriately. So your suit jacket
true.
is ironed, so we're not seeing creases.
Does that mean Mark Torcaso can win as well?
Absolutely, because
Okay.
he's got his own individual style.
Well,
and he
I mean,
sticks to
but
it.
some people could look at Jeff's style as being a bit square,
No, I like
a
Jeff.
bit old fashioned,
I like
but
It's classic.
Like
It's a
Huey
classic.
Lewis in the news said, it's a tip to be square. He owns it.
I think it's a classic. So I think that, so who are you going to go with, Jeff Hopkins?
Yeah, sure. I'll go for
No,
Jeff.
I think Jeff is not a bad shout. He's definitely top 3, top 4 in the power rankings for that, okay?
I kind of heard of it. Yeah, I reckon you're like 3 or 4 away from being correct. All right,
I'm
fair enough.
I'm not saying incorrect.
Okay.
But, as Lachie said, God, there is a man with a dedicated fan base, Perth Glory. We want to know, what's Alex Apakis? What is it, Stone Edge? What's the
Stone Island.
Stone Island. God.
Get the badge in.
Get the badge in. I don't know what that means. I've just repeated what you said.
The shoulder, it has a badge.
Oh, yes, it does. It does too. Thank you. I'm so
It's a whole
trendy.
cult of people who like to show off the
Yeah.
Stone Island insignia. I am not one of them, clearly.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, but I do think Alex Apakis has done really well, and his coaching was pretty good for a decent portion of the season. So we can't always forget about that element as well.
We did have to deal with some pretty inconvenient obstacles
Yes,
as well,
absolutely.
like not playing for freaking ages, losing their, one of their star American imports who was flying at the start of the season and rightly based it. Like, there are extenuating circumstances as to why Perth maybe didn't hit the heights that some had hoped.
Exactly, but they only missed out on finals by a point, and I think a couple of goals maybe.
Yeah, and they arguably gave us the best game of the season too.
What game was that?
The 4-3?
No, I'm just saying, which game are you picking? God, they've had some good games.
No,
It's a 3-3 as well.
Fair call.
Yeah.
The 4-3 with Melbourne City
Okay,
was
no,
amazing.
that's fair. That's a good, that was a good, entertaining game of football. We did enjoy it. And the Dubby goes to...
I'm not dissenting. Yeah, no, it's fine.
Dubby goes to Alex Apakis. Congratulations. Hopefully we continue that next season.
We could have just set it on 3.
Yeah. Would have saved a lot of
I
time.
was going for Jeff Hopkins, goddamn it.
I'm here to provide some variety,
Fair enough.
some
But-
variation, diversity of voice.
With that is the end of the Dubby ceremony.
I wonder if Alex Apakis likes Huey Lewis in the news.
Maybe he does. I reckon he does. But unlike the Oscars, we aren't going for 4 hours. We are going for a short period of time. So with the Dubbies over, Lachie, thank you for joining us on the show. We appreciate you joining us as always.
It's been good. Not that I ever want to wish away an international break. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Matildas do, but bring on the finals. I can't wait.
Bring on the finals. Oscar, thank you for joining us, and I know you've got to get going. Thank you guys for all joining us on the W's Award Show. We will be back at the end of the grand final. We'll hand out some more W Awards. They'll be made up, and they might make sense, might not. Who knows? Bye for now.
Set the bar low.
Yeah, exactly. Catch this podcast on Spotify and everything else, and then catch some of the old stuff because we've got some cool interviews with some cool players. Bye-bye.
Pickett, she lays it off. Teresa Polias.